The ape man looked at me as though he expected something. I perceived the pause was interrogative. "He comes to live with you," I said. "It is a man. He must learn the law." I began to distinguish now a deeper blackness in the black, a vague outline of a hunched-up figure. Then I noticed the opening of the place was darkened by two more black heads. My hand tightened on my stick. The thing in the dark repeated in a louder tone, "Say the words." I had missed the last remark. "Not to go on all fours, that is the law," it repeated in a kind of sing-song. I was puzzled. "Say the words," said the ape man, repeating, and the figures in the doorway echoed this with a threat in the tone of their voices. I realized that I had to repeat this idiotic formula. And then began the insanest ceremony. The voice in the dark began intoning a mad litany, line by line, and I and the rest had to repeat it. And as they did so, they swayed from side to side in the oddest way and beat their hands upon their knees, and I followed their example. I could have imagined I was already dead and in another world. That dark hut, these grotesque, dim figures, just flecked here and there by a glimmer of light, and all of them swaying in unison and chanting, "Not to go on all fours, that is the law. Are we not men? Not to suck up drink, that is the law. Are we not men? Not to eat fish or flesh, that is the law. Are we not men? Not to claw the bark of trees, that is the law. Are we not men? Not to chase other men, that is the law. Are we not men?" And so from the prohibition of these acts of folly onto the prohibition of what I thought then were the maddest, most impossible, and most indecent things one could well imagine. A kind of rhythmic fervor fell on all of us. We gabbled and swayed faster and faster, repeating this amazing law. Superficially, the contagion of these brutes was upon me, but deep down within me, the laughter and disgust struggled together. We ran through a long list of prohibitions, and then the chant swung around to a new formula. "His is the house of pain. His is the hand that makes. His is the hand that wounds. His is the hand that heals." And so on for another long series, mostly quite incomprehensible gibberish to me about him, whoever he might be. I could have fancied it was a dream, but never before have I heard chanting in a dream. "His is the lightning flash," we sang. "His is the deep salt sea." A horrible fancy came in my head. That Moreau, after animalizing these men, had infected their dwarfed brains with a kind of deification of himself. So I'm just going to stop there in this dramatic reading. Thanks for hanging with me there. Listen, if you are a science fiction or fantasy or literature buff like I am, you already know what this reading was from. It's from a book written in the late 1800s by H.G. Wells called The Island of Dr. Moreau. Now, like I said, if you already knew what this was from, you probably read it yourself, either, just because you love literature, or maybe as a project at school, or maybe you saw one of the film versions that were made from this book. And there were several, although the one that's, I think, in my heart is the 1977 version with Michael York. I mean, come on, Michael York, right? So to me, that's the best film version. But I remember watching that film version as a kid and sort of being fascinated and horrified by it all at the same time. Listen, and there's a reason for it. H.G. Wells was writing The Island of Dr. Moreau as a warning. And the reason that I'm bringing The Island of Dr. Moreau sort of back to your attention today is because you and I find ourselves living in a society right now where we have ignored the warning of H.G. Wells. And if you haven't read, listen, if for some reason you stuck with me thus far and you never read the book and you never saw the movie, let me just give you a brief synopsis of what this is about. The island of Dr. Moreau is about a guy who gets shipwrecked on this island, right? And Dr. Moreau, he finds himself, on this island, and Dr. Moreau has taken up residency there. He's fled from England out of shame and I think probably fear for being incarcerated. Dr. Moreau is a scientist, and he is exposed publicly in England. He's shamed for his unethical, immoral, and illegal experiments where he's been creating these sort of chimera type things where he's taking the elements of human beings and animals and putting them together. And of course, once he's exposed, he flees England, finds himself at this island, and of course, we discover along with the main character that Dr. Moreau has continued his unethical experiments right here on this island, which is now populated with these things that are neither quite people nor animals, and they are reciting in this scene. They're reciting, the law, basically these rules that they repeat over and over to themselves, because they're trying to hold on to the human part of who they are, when there is this, of course, tremendous pull away from that because of their animal instincts. So it's this fascinating story. But listen, it was written as a warning, and you and I find ourselves today living in a society that has ignored that warning, and this is no longer science fiction. This is happening, and it's happening right here in America. I want you to watch the rest of this video. I'm going to put some links below, and I want you, more importantly, to consider using your voice and your influence to address what's going on. Okay, so this is so freaky and outrageous that I just had to share this with you. You can read the title up here. It says the FDA is acquiring fresh aborted baby parts to make mice with human immune systems. The Food and Drug Administration signed a contract to acquire fresh human fetal tissue to transplant into humanized mice so that the mice will have a functioning human immune system. Here are links here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link to this page at the bottom of the video so you can read through, because I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. You can do that yourself. But here, I'll read this part. According to GSA's federal contact database, Advanced Bioscience Resources, a nonprofit in San Francisco, was awarded this contract. It'll run through 2019. So basically, these are, human beings who are inconvenient, who are being killed by their own mothers, and then their organs are being harvested to be put into mice, so then they can do drug testing on them. Here's an example of what is happening and what's being implanted. Here, I'll find another one. It's a little bit lower on the article. Specifically, there was some other questions here. Again, I think in the interest of time, I'll just let you read the article, but I did find this this bit interesting. It says here, the FDA also would not answer this question. Quote, are the mothers who agree to donate the tissue from their unborn babies for this research informed that the tissue taken from their aborted baby will be transplanted into a mouse. Close quote. Their blanket statement is, well, we're meeting all the legal requirements, and we've got the highest ethical standards. Yeah, yep. So take a look at this article. They've got quite a bit of info in it. There's another piece right here. I'll stop here. It says, underneath, it says, a mouse with a humanized immune system is created by removing the animal's bone marrow cells and implanting human thymus and liver tissues under the kidney. Human stem cells that can become various kinds of immune cells are introduced into the bloodstream. Within weeks, the mouse develops a functioning immune system that can produce many of the immune cells found in humans, including various kinds of antibody-producing B cells and T cells. So that graphic is right there on the FDA's website. That's what they're doing. They're taking baby parts, they're putting them into a mouse and creating a chimera, something that has human and mouse, genetics, and then doing their drug testing on it. I find this creepy, unsettling, and unethical. And if you do too, then let me just suggest that you be in contact with your representatives and get something done about this, because this is disturbing stuff.